When supper was ended, they went out into the Mount of Olives and into the Garden of Gethsemane. And Jesus said to his disciples,
pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. Thy will be done, the Saviour said, and bow to earth His sacred head. The sands of life had nearly run. My Father, let thy will be done. Thy will, not mine, be done. No watches spent, disciples kept, amid the shadows deep they slept. The silent angels waiting there beheld His agony of prayer. Thy will, not mine, be done.
Yesterday, Norman shared about, how when the going was good, everybody was running after Jesus. Everybody wanted him to be at their parties. Zacchaeus wanted him to be at his home. And so were the other prominent Pharisees and all that. But when the going got tough, specifically when Jesus started delivering his tough messages, if you want to follow me, take up your cross and follow me. If you want to follow me, sell all that you have, give it to the poor, and come follow me. So let us start meditating on this agony that Jesus went through. Were there some moments such as this that we have been through? And then there was this angel of God who accompanied us, who came by our side and said, "It's okay. It's okay." Have we been that kind of an angel to others?
Yeah, frankly, I find it very difficult to identify with Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, because I don't know in my life I've ever had that kind of agony. I mean, we've all been through our little bits of turmoil and shocking news and bad news. And those are little moments of agony. You know, you can hardly compare it to what Jesus knew he was going to go through. You got support from family, friends, but Jesus was alone. And shockingly, after after this humongous life he had with these 12, he just said, come with me. I'm feeling a bit down. I need to pray and spend some time with the Father. Just watch and pray. But no, they fell asleep.
I want to say that, Norman talked about situational agonies. Um, and although mine, I mean, just personally speaking, is the situational ones come and go, and yes, there's lots of support. Um, but I feel that, the agonies are also the fear and the doubt that riddle my life. Many times I will go to that Garden of Gethsemane place. The raging bulls surround me, roaring lions bare their teeth. It's just that fear, doubt. I think of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane when those kind of attack me or whatever. People who are sick and people who are elderly, I find that those also bring back the Garden of Gethsemane to me. Like there's so much of agony, just agony. And this thing of, why am I here? It's just meaningless. And then the faith keeps them going. I remember giving communion to one of these. He was a gentleman. He didn't know English, and he was really, really sick. It was in the seniors' home, and I was trying to tell him that I brought communion, but he couldn't understand. And then I just showed him the host, and then like from the deep recesses of his being there was that amen. Like he was just, it was just mind blowing to see. But what I like, that just that trust and that whole deep thing of faith. But just looking at him reminded me so much of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane.
But my agony and suffering comes from other people's agony and suffering. And every second day, the Lord brings somebody into my life out of nowhere, and they share their pain and suffering with me, and that becomes my agony. Last week, we have a new trainee in our team, and I connected with her. I haven't met her because we're not in the same bubble. And out of the blue, she just shared with me that she's got cancer in her face. I felt so much pain, when she shared that with me. And I thought, if somebody's sharing something so deep with me, I've got to do something for that person. And Jesus is bringing these people to me so that I can pray for them, pray with them.
I too find it difficult to describe anything that I have gone through as agony. Many a times come across people who are on the verge of giving up, sometimes giving up on life, either in what they're doing, or sometimes who feel that their life is not worth it. And I've identified that as you know the closest to agony, because agony is extreme pain, is extreme pain, which makes one feel like one is dying. It's not a physical pain. Sometimes it's just a mental, it's a huge mental pain which one feels that the absence of life, or the absence of, the way I would like to put it, as the worthiness of life. That is something that I could relate to in or experience in a small way when I feel unworthy or life is unpurposeful. Magnify that 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times, and that is the agony which Jesus felt, that at that point of time probably felt that all that he did was not worth it, with nobody being there with him, everything going against him, and looking at what would come the following day. I would see the helplessness in the way he asked the disciples, the apostles, to just to just be with him. He didn't expect them to solve his problem. He didn't expect them to do anything to help him, but just be there. And I think that is the only sense of relief that I've seen with people who are in that stage. They just want somebody to be with them, hold their hands. Um, Whether the person is young or old, that's the minimum that they want, and probably the maximum that they expect at that point of time.
So it's strange that you're talking about this, because actually what I was dwelling on was this watching and praying. And I feel Jesus it has stressed on the importance of watching and praying, and of steeping our lives in prayer, of being close to Him all the time, of praying at all times. It's at the time that we aren't connected with God and we aren't close to God, when we aren't talking to God every day. That's when the time the enemy can come in and quietly start drawing us away bit by bit. So when we let down our guard, then the enemy comes in. It's like in anything else in life. If we let down our guard with our health, then suddenly we find we have a health problem. And similarly, our spiritual health is as important as our physical health. And we need prayer for our spiritual health. We need to pray. We need to watch and we need to pray at all times, because we don't know what's lurking around the corner. I know there are people who have forgotten how to pray, and then there's an agony in their lives, and that they don't know how to pray at that time. They don't know what to do, and they think, where is God? Why has He gone from me? Where is He? Where is God? Has He forsaken me? I don't think He cares for me. What's the use? Or they start getting depressed, or they start going through a questioning problem. And I too get people who send me messages, and I just say, how are you? And I get a message, I'm going through a real desert. I'm going through a desert. I can't see the top of the mountain. I can't see the top of the mountain. And at that point in time, I feel that we are called to watch and pray with them and for them, because they are not able to do it themselves at that point in time. They're weakened at that moment. And we have to be their watch and their prayer. And we have to specially pray for protection, because what's at risk is their soul. Because when they go through an agony, people can become bitter, people can become depressed, people can become what is called agnostic, and there are all sorts of things that can happen to people's minds at this time. And then people begin grabbing at straws, grabbing at things that are not good and that are not pleasing to God. So for instance, if you're really dying to get into some college, of a young person who wants to get, and that's so important for them, but they've not been talking to the Lord every day and asking the Lord and speaking to the Lord and say, is this for me? Is this what you want me to do? And then it doesn't happen, and they feel so let down. And then someone comes and offer them, say, okay, if you pay me so much, and whatever, I will talk to so and so and so and so, and we will do this and we will help you, whatever. Or to get a job somewhere. I know many times that happens in government jobs or something, and you really want something so badly that you will do anything to get it. And then sometimes you even regret what you've done afterwards. And so it's so important to watch and pray, not only for ourselves but for one another.
This line that keeps like hitting me whenever this was playing was "Thy will be done," and I kept like thinking about this because like when I was much younger, and I always liked this line, and whenever I used to pray, I used to always say this: "Thy will be done, Thy will be done," and I think I never understood the depth of this line. Whenever I pray to God and asked Him whatever, and I always said, "Thy will be done," according to Your will, not mine. And but I don't think at that age or whatever I really understood the depth of what that line meant. And like years down the line, he put situations in my life that uh, made me think about this line, and maybe we realize, am I really trusting fully, and I saying, okay, Thy will be done, and am I saying, am I trusting Your will completely? Like it was a family situation, or it was a situation someone was ill, or it was someone who I cared about a lot was going through a very difficult point in their life, and what could I do? of course, it's a battle because you are surrendering, but it's also questioning. Can I surrender completely to God and say, okay, whatever happens tomorrow, if in this situation, if the person that I care about is not going to be there, or whatever it turns into a situation that I cannot, not the way that I am happy about it. And to think that Jesus went through that, and he went through that moment when he was he also had to surrender his and say to the Lord, thy will be done. And in some way it gives me reassurance knowing that no matter my agony, he has gone through much more, that I can learn, I can understand that I have to surrender completely. And only when I can surrender, can I, no matter if I could surrender at that point in time, I can feel that angel's touch, that angel's telling me, okay, be calm, it's going to be okay. I think it's a continuous process. I have to keep repeating to myself, thy will be done, Lord, thy will be done.
I wanted to say how what Celeste said about watching and praying. It's a tough thing, and many times I kind of think of these disciples in the garden, where the spirit is willing but the flesh is weak, kind of thing. Especially, there are times when you beat yourself up for not doing, or for not seeing, or for omitting something or whatever. I don't know how to explain it, but there are times when you kind of say that, to yourself, if I was more patient, or if I was more vigilant or courageous, or whatever you want to say. But the whole thing about that, being alive, being alert in prayer, and that resilience of just coming back and starting all over. Like he didn't, like, he was just sad that they didn't, Jesus didn't like get so upset with them. It was as if he kind of knew. So many times it just, like, that's a good way to think of it sometimes, when you're being hard on yourself, or when you see somebody else being hard on themselves about not watching and praying enough. It's a very comforting scene, like Jesus's response to them sleeping.
Last year, I think one of my spiritual struggles was surrendering, and I talk a lot about it. Like, I used to struggle with surrendering, and I dealt with that. I'm good at surrendering, but what I'm bad at, and what I'm working on, what God has worked in the past week at least, is learning to realign my heart's desires to what really matters, or really trying to, like, and meditating through Lent, and even though I intentionally didn't go out to look for things of Lent to speak to me, just when I prayed, when I sat down in prayer and I said, Lord, help me work through my issues, and automatically through my day, maybe at home, mom and dad will make me sit for something, which is, or for a sermon or for a talk, or maybe I go down this rabbit hole of researching about the church, and I come across wonderful, like, Lent inspirations and contemplations. And I realized that God really uses those things to really walk me out of my struggles. And my issue, and the way Lent has helped me, was the lust that I put around the idea of my career, for example. I built this glorious understanding of what I need to do, and these kind of life goals or life expectations, or these earthly expectations, even though you're surrendering it to God, is one thing. But when you make it such a big part of your life that it no longer becomes a goal, but starts to become this thing to lust for, that starts to take place, take root in so many aspects of your life, that it ruins your peace. And that's what started to happen to me, because I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I used to get palpitations, and I was beating hard because of this, contemplating constantly, not what the good that God can do through this sort of learning, but rather just, oh shit, like, what, I have these big expectations and these big demands that I've put as to what the kind of life I need. And I'm surrendering it to God and saying, God, handle it. But that's not the point, right? God is asking you for your heart. And surrendering is one part of it, but he's asking you to align the desires back. I'm saying back because at one point maybe I was desiring it, but your place in the kingdom, right? That's what it's all about. And so this whole and while I was like struggling with this last week, I was sitting for one of the Lenten missions, and talking about how Christ was spent like 40 days in the desert, right? And the devil literally, like Satan literally standing and saying, listen, you can see this world, I'll give it to you, like everything, all the glories and riches. You can see this, you can just touch the stone and turn to bread and you can eat it. Like literally, he was literally like showing these shiny things to Christ and literally like putting it in front of his face and saying, listen, you can see this, you can have it. But I realized that I was going through a very similar sort of dilemma. Right? I was in this desert and right, like I felt like this, like some sort of spirit within me sort of trying to play at my heart and say, you know what, these are these earthly things that you can achieve. You know, you just have to make these few decisions or make these few things, and you but I could always, even though those options seemed so easy and so like right there as to the way I should live my life, and I just imagined myself feeling so empty, and I said, no, I'm going to go through the struggle of really forging myself into the person I want to be first, and aligning my heart first, and then allowing God to lead me to where I need to. I was struggling with this idea of, or this way of, you know, just not taking ownership of my problems well enough. I would always, like, if I had an issue, I'd always literally run to someone and try to have them solve it, or try to like, you know, like sort of throw it away and say, you know, I don't want this issue, I don't want this problem. And when I'm thinking about the Garden of Gethsemane, there's something about obedience there. He did not call his followers and his disciples and say, carry this cross with me. You know, this is something we're going to do together. Let's all get together like a group of you and my followers, and all of us get salvation for the world together. You know, let's do this. Like, it wasn't that. It was just like, just stay there, just be there and just pray. This is my cross. This is my cup that I'm going to carry. And he took ownership of that. And when you do that with your problems in real life, right, when you apply that to your real life, it's filled with agony, man. Like, it's really stressful. It can really beat you. It can really, really burn you. And I think and however stressful that might be, it's extremely necessary. You really encounter God through that experience of not just surrender, but of obedience. Yes, I'm trusting you, and it is hard, and it is hard, and I'm still going to do it because I have to. It's not just make it easy for me or solve it for me. It's more like just be there. And that's why I said, like, I feel so nice this week. My problems have not gone away. I still have the same amount of work. I still have the same uncertainty with regards to my job applications, the same stress at home with COVID and mental health of everyone, and how everyone's getting stressed, and issues with my house and everything. The same problems, but it's just like really, really knowing, just taking ownership, and it gives you a lot of peace. And finding that in Christ, and sort of thinking about it through Lent is something that is really strengthening me.
We can end with a small prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for this time that you spent with us, helping us to meditate on your agony. Help us to be inspired by your perseverance and your single-minded focus of salvation.
Lord, hear my prayer.